Well, first of all, thank you all for having me here today. My name is Rob Gaston. I work with Dennis at Farallon Geographics as a developer. I've been working on Arches since the very beginning, and I've been leading the Lingo development team. And I'm really excited to show you all a bit about what Lingo can do in action here. So this is a live demo that I'm going to be doing. For this demo, I'm going to be playing a role. I'll be a vocabulary editor for a cultural heritage institution. In this case, Historic England is the example that I'm using. They manage a set of vocabularies that are used across a number of different systems called the FISH vocabularies. You'll hear a little bit more about that from Phil later in a little video. But FISH stands for Forum on Information Standards and Heritage. These vocabularies are used, like I said, across a number of different systems. And so let's just get into it here. This is Lingo, so you land on this splash page, and I can sign in here. Once I'm signed in, I'm presented with a search tool and some different navigation tools. I'm just going to jump to this schemes page so you can see the various thesauri that I have loaded here. So as you can see, Lingo supports loading many different thesauri. The FISH thesauri are separated into distinct schemes. So I've got all of the FISH thesauri loaded here, as well as the Getty AAT Art and Architecture thesaurus. So I pipe these data in from the published N triples that the Getty vocabs provide, and I'm going to be using this as a reference. So as I'm going through as a vocabulary editor, I'm going to be looking to AAT for some inspiration in terms of how I might enhance my vocabularies. In addition to that view of the schemes that I showed you just before, we have this hierarchy view, which allows you to drill down into schemes as you'd like. So this is the FISH archaeological objects thesaurus. We're going to be looking at that. Down here at the Getty AAT, I'm going to use this little focus tool. You can reduce some of the noise in this vocabulary, in this hierarchy viewer that way. As you can see, and as I'm sure most of you know, the AAT data are quite rich and include lots of different kinds of concepts with lots of different metadata associated with them. We also have this dashboard page, which gives me some aggregated statistics about the schemes that I have loaded. So this is across all of my 15 schemes, the 14 FISH thesauri I have loaded, as well as the Getty AAT. You can see I've got 70.8K concepts in there and about 500,000 labels. I can filter that on schemes, and you'll appreciate just how much data is in, as you probably know already, in the Getty AAT. You can tell most of the concepts and labels that I have are actually coming out of the Getty AAT. I'd like to point out, and maybe it would benefit from expanding some of these, the Lingo application is fully internationalizable. So I'm going to switch from English into Spanish, and you'll see that the labels in the application are now in Spanish, but also the terms are translated to pref labels for the selected language where available. So not all of the concepts in the Getty AAT have pref labels in Spanish, but for those that do, we show the best possible label for the language that the user is visiting the application in. We also have support for alternative scripts and right-to-left text, like Arabic, for example. But as I am an English speaker, I'm going to stick to English to help my navigation here. And then I'd also like to highlight quickly, we have this quick term search that allows you to search across all of your concepts, across all of your schemes, quickly using any terms, so pref labels, alternative labels, any languages. So an example of that would be rivers in the AAT. This is a concept that has a lot of translations in it, as you can see. But I can search for this same concept with the term rivers, or I could use the term ríos in Spanish. You can see rivers there. I could use the term Fluss in German, or I can use alternative scripts or even single character terms. So this is the preferred term for rivers in Chinese. You'll notice we get different fuzzy matches on the different strings that we provide, but the concept that has an exact match, rivers, i.e. the closest match, always comes to the top like a convenience to the user. I could also search on an alternative label in Chinese or a pref label in Arabic, and always get back the closest match, which is rivers. So now I'm going to go back to this concept of me as the vocabulary editor, trying to draw inspiration from the Getty AAT data that I've loaded in here to enhance my vocabularies, the fish vocabularies. And so I'm going to jump to a concept using this term search that I'm interested in, and that is sensor. So this is the sensor concept in the archaeological objects thesaurus, and I forgot to clear this. And as you can see, sensor has some information associated to it, but it's pretty scant. Sensor has an alternative label for thurible, or that is thurible. That's interesting. The concept note is quite general and terse. A vessel in which incense is burnt. Okay, that tells me some things about it. I can also see its various hierarchical positions and maybe draw some conclusions from that. But there's not a whole lot for me to go on here. And so this might be just fine for a UK monument record. But perhaps if I'm thinking about publishing these as linked open data, or aligning with international partners, England has partners in Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland. Maybe this is underdescribed, and it's certainly unlinked to any other data. Now let's pop over and take a look at a similar concept in the Getty AAT, and that would be sensors. Okay, immediately I'm seeing a lot more information here, right? We've got 25 different labels, pref and alternative labels across various languages. Each of these labels, by the way, has sources and contributors information that are quite robust. And the same goes for concept notes down below here. We've got much more detailed scope notes across a number of different languages, and those scope notes have source and contributor information associated with them. So I can start to learn more about sensors by exploring this concept in Getty AAT that's so rich. I can also look at associated concepts and understand this concept as it relates to other concepts in the AAT. So that's helpful for me building my understanding of what a sensor is. And then I can see all of its hierarchical positions. You can see there are many more hierarchical positions here for sensors in the Getty AAT, as there are many more concepts in the Getty AAT. And then interestingly, it has narrower concepts as well. And maybe even more interestingly, for what I just saw in my sensor concept, thuribles is a narrower concept. So now I'm starting to learn some more things about sensors as opposed to or as distinct from thuribles. And in fish, thurible is just an alt label for sensor. But in AAT, it's actually a distinct concept. It's a Christian liturgical sensor, and it has siblings or cousins for other traditions and other kinds of sensors. And now, as a fish editor, I might make decisions about how I want to manage my vocabulary, right? Do I want to split the sensor concept into two concepts? Do I want to amend it with scope notes that would make these distinctions more clear? All of that's up to me as a vocabulary editor, but I can draw some conclusions from what I see in the AAT data. So to kind of expand that workflow out a bit, I'm going to take a look at our advanced search interface. So this allows me to do advanced searches, as the name implies, across all of my concepts and schemes, and do that using a number of different kinds of facets. So a simple search that might be relevant to what I'm trying to do here would be to search for labels that contain the word sensors. So I can do that search, and you can see I've got two concepts. Okay, maybe that's interesting to me. Maybe I want to expand that out a bit, and I'm going to add a group. I'm going to say labels that contain. I'm going to use the word sensor actually, because AAT uses plural, whereas fish uses singular. I'm going to say the label contains sensor or the note contains sensor. So now I'm getting back a slightly larger set of results. I've got 11 results. And so that's interesting to me. These might inform my thinking about how I modify my sensor concept in the fish vocabulary. But I'm also noticing that really I'm focused on sensor objects, right? And I'm getting a few results in here that are maybe spurious to that. Review is in the activities facet. Early post-classical is a style or period. I really want to focus on objects. So I might further amend this search to do some hierarchical querying. So I only want to see schemes that are in the fish archaeological objects thesaurus or have a hierarchical relationship to, if I could spell, the objects facet, and I want to include all of the results on down the hierarchy. So now this should find me all of the hits for this label or note sensor that are within either the fish archaeological objects thesaurus or the objects facet in the AAT. So now I've got 8 results down here, and this is kind of interesting. If I'm, say, interested in revisiting this search, I can save it. So I can save the search, and I could give it a name, sensor object concepts, let's say. I can save that off, and then at will, I can recall this search. So if I wanted to revisit this query sometime in the future, I can just call that back up, and I can delete it whenever I'm done with it. A different kind of editorial kind of search I might want to do would be something like this saved search that I've got here, which is concepts that are in the fish archaeological objects scheme and lack a note that is not note exists, right? So interesting. I've got 3 concepts in my archaeological objects thesaurus that don't have any kinds of scope notes. So this might be an indicator that I should do a little research and come back and amend these concepts with some more detail. A third kind of query that I might be interested in would be something like this. So I want to see all of the hierarchical children of the sensors concept in the Getty AAT. So this might inform my thinking about thuribles or other narrower concepts for sensor in my fish thesaurus. And I can see there's 8 results here. These are interesting to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new concept set, sensors children AAT, call it. So this is how I can save the results of my query and revisit them. So I'm going to create that set, and then I'm going to select the results that I want to add, which is all of these. I'm going to say add to set, and I'm going to pick that set I just created, and I'm going to add them. So I can have as many concept sets as I want, and now that I've added them to a concept set, I can freely visit those from this Explore panel as I'm looking at concepts and schemes within Lingo. So here's my set, and you can see I've got all of these concepts here, and I could jump to thuribles if I'm interested in that. Maybe some of these I decide I'm specifically not interested in, so I could start to progressively remove things from the set, narrow it down, work through concepts that I might want to be reviewing or might be editing, and again, I can have as many of these sets as I want. Now let's jump back to my sensor concept and consider how I might want to actually apply some editorial changes based on everything I've learned here. In order to start an edit on a concept, the scheme has to be in the edit mode. So right now, the scheme is in published state, which means everything in the scheme has identifiers and URIs and is ready for publishing as linked open data. But if I want to start to apply some edits, I can jump up to the fish archaeological objects scheme, and I can flip it into edit mode. And now I can start editing things. I'm quickly going to use the browser back button here to get back to my sensor concept And I did that to point out that Lingo is a web-based application. I don't know if that was obvious, but that means you have all of the capability of your browser. You can have multiple tabs, you can have multiple windows, you can use the browser history to navigate between concepts and schemes that you've brought up. It's a really convenient way to navigate through your data and explore them. So based on what I saw in AAT, I'm thinking I'm going to replace this alt label thurable with a child concept of sensor that is called thurable. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to delete the alt label. That alt label is now gone. And then I'm also going to amend this concept note because it's kind of terse, and a way to expand this out might be to include a more descriptive scope note. And I have one that I drafted just off screen. So I have a scope note that I've written. This is inspired by the AAT, but I'm not copying AAT wholesale. I'm using it as a reference, and then I'm writing improved notes and modifying my vocabulary in the editorial style and voice of the fish vocabularies. I can assign source and contributor information to anything really in Lingo, and this is just an example. We'll say the source is the Getty AAT, and the contributor is me. And so now you see we've got an improved note with source and contributor information now. So we're expanding on the conception of what a sensor is. Now I'm going to add a child concept for thurable. So I can just come over here and hit that button in the hierarchy to add child. And now I've got a new form to create my thurable concept. And I'm just going to type thurable in as the preferred label in English. And I'm going to skip over sources and contributors for the rest of this, just for expediency's sake. But were I actually doing this, I would assign sources and contributors as needed. And now I've got a new concept for thurable. They are beneath sensor. And I can start to expand on what this concept is. And I'm going to add a note. And that note. Just again, copying a pre-drafted note off screen here. I missed a character. A type of sensor. So yeah, this is obviously a more explanatory note than certainly than we had in sensor before. That defines exactly what a thurable is. So that's great. Like Dennis mentioned in the claw beaker example, I might read this note and say, okay, I guess I kind of know what a thurable is, but an image is worth 1,000 words, as they say. And so I'm going to add an image here. And sorry, again, I'm just copying things off screen. So I can give a title. I'm going to call it example thurable. And a description, which will make more sense when I add the image. And then I can just upload an image. I got this from Wikimedia. They say it's a thurable. And now I've got an image of a thurable associated with my concept, and I or the next person can revisit this to know more about what I mean when I describe what a thurable is. Finally, I want to match this concept, thus linking it to the AAT data that I was just looking at. So I'm going to jump back to thurables in AAT, and I'm just going to copy the URI for thurables, because that's what we use to match to concepts. And I'm going to add a match concept for thurable. I'm going to call it a close match. It's current. And again, I'm just glossing over sources and contributors here for expediency's sake. So now I've got a pointer that will link my data to the AAT. And now when I publish those data as linked open data, the folks consuming that can follow this through and learn more about a thurable with the information in the AAT thesaurus. So once I'm happy with a set of edits that I made, noting that thurable is a draft concept, which means, again, it has no URI yet, and it has no identifier yet. I'd like to publish this so that I can start using these as linked open data. To do that, I just come back up to my scheme, the archaeological objects thesaurus, and I hit publish. So now this will generate identifiers and URIs based on some rules that I've defined here at the scheme level. So you can define template and sequences for generating identifiers. And now when I go back to Thurible in Fish Archaeological Objects Thesaurus, you can see it's got a URI and an identifier assigned to it now. So I'm ready to start publishing these. To share this, I might want to then export it, right? So I'm just going to come up here and hit this export button. You can export in a number of different formats: SCOS XML, RDF XML, CSV, or JSON LD. You can give it an optional file name. I'm just going to hit export. And it lets me know that I'll be notified when that's ready. So I'll get a notification here when that file's ready. It takes a minute or so because it needs to save the file off the disk, and then I can just download it and share my thesaurus. There it is. You can see there's my download ready for me to download. In summary, hopefully this gave you a sense of like some of the core features of Lingo, that navigation and search across multiple schemes, a faceted advanced search that searches on notes, labels, languages, hierarchical structure, matches, and it supports concept sets rather, and saved searches, so saving both the query and the results of a query. A rich interface for reporting on and editing concepts across schemes and navigating amongst the concepts within schemes. Publishing and exporting schemes. There's a lot of other features here that I didn't demo here. Things like the ability to review and edit sources and contributors directly in this interface. User permissions, roles, profile management for users. The ability to import thesauri. APIs for serving linked open data as an integration point. And then there's a lot more stuff that is either already under development or is planned for development in future versions. Things that I'm really excited about, like a Sparkle endpoint for querying data inside Lingo, as well as an interface for doing those queries. Support for additional import formats, explicit concept split and merge tools, and support for additional hierarchies, like people, groups, periods, places. So lots more exciting stuff to come. And with that, thanks so much for letting me share.